Okay, today I am going to tell you exactly what to do and what not to do when answering investors' questions. I practice this like crazy before going on Shark Tank. So I want to share with you everything I learned in that process and how I kind of crushed it in terms of answering really hard questions from those investors on Shark Tank. And they are all throwing questions at you at the same time, purposely trying to throw you off. And I was able to handle it composed and articulate answers in a calm, professional way that got the point across and ultimately got me funded. So if I was able to do that, given all the shit I had going on in my business, I know that you can do it too. There are some simple frameworks that if you get really used to practicing doing these things, it is doable to not get flustered and not get thrown off your game. So the biggest mistake to avoid is do not make up an answer if you don't know it. You instantly lose credibility and you can come across as like completely unprepared and even worse, untrustworthy. So do not make up answers, right? That is the worst thing you can do. So instead, use this systematic approach to handle the tough or unknown questions. So step number 1, acknowledge, admit you don't have the answer without hesitation. It is okay. You don't have to have the answer to everything. Acknowledge that you don't have an answer. So example, like, yes, that's a critical metric. I don't have the exact figure for that in front of me, but I will follow up with you right after the meeting. Now, why that works? It shows honesty and it shows professionalism. Okay, step 2, reframe it. So right after you acknowledge it, provide relevant information and context to support your response. So example, while I don't have that specific number, I can share, our current strategy does X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. So you're balancing that transparency while also showcasing what you do know. Step 3, follow up. Make sure you send a follow-up after the meeting with that specific answer. That will boost your credibility through the roof if you actually do that. Most people say they're going to follow up and they don't. So quick email, text, whatever format you're talking to them. If you're at a, event or something, you can run up to them. Hey, here's that data point we discussed during the meeting, blah, blah, blah. That is going to build so much trust and reinforce your commitment to follow through. So quick recap on that. When you don't know the answer, step 1, acknowledge it. Step 2, reframe it. And step 3, follow up. Now, this is equally important. Here's how to answer a question that you do know. And so many people make this mistake. When you do know the answer, here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to start with the background and elaborate on all this stuff and then 5 minutes later get to your answer. Chances are, more often than not, you are going to get cut off way before you get to your answer. And you're going to lose credibility. They're going to think you don't know what you're talking about and you're kind of beating around the bush. So when you do know the answer the question quickly and concisely. So provide the answer right away up front. Avoid diving into a long-winded background story before addressing the question. So answer the question right away. And then step 2, provide the context after. So once the question's answered, then you can briefly provide supporting background. And here's why this is great. If you get interrupted, you've at least answered the question, right? So if they interrupt you in the background part, at least you've gotten your point across and they're not redirecting you off to another question before you even got to answer the first one. Again, when you do know the answer, step 1 is answer the question. Step 2 is provide the background secondary. Here's why practicing is so critical. Adrenaline and nerves, no matter what, when you're pitching investors, they get ramped up and it can make it harder to think clearly in the moment. So you want to practice effectively. Make up Q&A sessions with tough, unexpected answers. Get other people to throw questions at you. Focus on both the known and the unknown answers and practice this acknowledge, reframe, and follow-up process. So specifically have people ask questions that they don't think you're going to know the answer to, just so you can practice that process. Other common pitfalls to avoid: rambling. You really don't want to ramble on. Avoid starting with the background. Even when you do answer the question first, avoid rambling after the fact. Avoid fumbling through unknown answers again. So you don't want to try to like make something up or kind of answer it differently. Use that framework, acknowledge, reframe, follow up. Just to recap, preparation is everything. Half the battle in these pitches is just proving you are credible and professional. And the follow through really, really does matter. See you next time.